this is fantastic news.
Right.
Another tip of the hat to the great people at the Democracy Fund, our arm's length charity, because it's funny, Sheila. Do you see any coverage of this in the mainstream media? This perversity to begin with of finding the Amish for not having ArriveCan on their cell phones when we're talking about people who shun technology. They don't even have landlines. Maybe that's why they didn't download the app. I mean, it's like a Monty Python sketch.
They don't have rubber on their tires. My mom is from Ontario. And so her family farm, which we went back to every single year in Mount Forest, Ontario, it was right next to the Amish are right there. And so she grew up close to the Amish. I am familiar with the Amish. I mean, they had hitching posts behind the Safeway in Mount Forest. And so anybody can see with their eyes, these people don't have rubber on their tires because that's too much technology. The idea that these people who need someone to drive them to the doctors because they don't have technology, that they would somehow download the ArriveCan app upon entry into Canada, the idea that this proceeded as far as it did is insane. But thankfully, the Democracy Fund, thanks to everybody's generous donations to the Democracy Fund, was able to get $38,000 in fines waived. They were crossing back and forth at Niagara Falls. And so they're closely linked to Amish communities like in Pennsylvania. And, a lot of times they're the same family going back and forth. And they didn't have a cell phone. Nobody was smart enough anywhere along the way to say, how do we even issue them a $5,600 fine for this kind of thing? And then they put liens on their farms. They only found out about the liens on their farms. I'm sure the government emailed them, but they only found out about the liens on their farms when they went to finance farm equipment, cattle, whatever. That's the only time they found out about it. And by then, I mean, they've got fees, their credit has been mangled. This has just been absolutely devastating to these people, all because of the ArriveCan app, which was an absolute boondoggle mess itself from the beginning. It sent 10,000 people to quarantine erroneously.
Can you think of how insidious that is, Sheila? I'm glad you brought up the lien to their farm because Sheila's right, folks. The way they found out, they would go in at planting season to get a loan from the bank to get the necessary seed or fertilizer equipment, etc. And the banker would come back to these Amish folk and say, Mr. So-and-so, I'm dreadfully sorry, but there's a lien on your property. A lien by whom? Oh, the federal government, the government of Canada. This is reminiscent, Sheila, of what the government did to donors to the Freedom Convoy back in 2022. We're going to freeze your bank account. The overreach is so outrageous. And finally, the cherry on this sordid sundae is this. ArriveCan did not work. It didn't work. It was a dead dog with fleas, right?
Not only did it not work, it cost $60+ million. The guy who, one of the two guys in their little shell company that developed this thing, they've just been banned from government contracts for 7 years.
Not good enough.
They should be in jail.
Exactly.
Actually, they should be in jail, not just banned for 7 years. And it didn't work. It was recreated over a weekend by people in the private sector for, I think, a tenth of the cost. Not even. I think it was like $50,000, $48,000, something like that. And the thing sent 10,000 people erroneously to quarantine, or they would face $56,000 or $5,600 in fines. And this is $5,000 plus fees and the government victim surcharge or whatever it is. But the thing never worked. Anybody facing any of these fines should have their money given back and everything wiped clean. The thing didn't work. It was a scam from the beginning.
And you know, the perverse irony here, Sheila, is that going back more than 2 centuries, it was the Amish fleeing religious
Yeah.
persecution in Europe that made them come to Ontario
Yeah.
before it was even known as Ontario, before there
Yeah.
was a Canada. They were coming here for freedom. Imagine what they think today when you go into a bank and you find out the government is now basically the owner of your property. Unbelievable.
And like Esther said, we had difficulty convincing them even to fight back
Yeah,
because they're pacifist by nature. They're
exactly.
Anabaptist pacifists. And so they don't fight in wars. They don't even vote. And so they were just ready to sort of turn the other cheek. And it took a lot to convince them to fight this injustice against them. So this is the government just taking advantage of the most vulnerable and kind
100%.
people amongst us.
Yeah,
But
they
that is
mean no harm to anyone, Sheila.
nothing.
Yeah.
Nothing. I mean, and they're sort of cloistered by nature, right? So even if they quite literally quarantine to themselves all
Yeah.
the time, right? So to think that they would spread COVID amongst everybody else, they have their own churches, they have their own schools, they help each other with their own farming. Like they are sort of cloistered by nature, so they were never a threat to any of us. But that is the government, I guess.
Do you agree with me? It is time to make Canada great again. And that is why we at Rebel News have teamed up with MCGA Hats to introduce, well, the fashion sensation of 2025. Oh, and by the way, these beautiful hats, they are made in Canada. We don't rely on cheap imports coming over from China. So what are you waiting for, folks? Show your pride. This is the perfect thing for a patriot to wear, or maybe there's a patriot in your life that you would like to gift such a hat. Please go to mcgahats.ca. That's mcgahats.ca. Don't be shy about it. Wear this cap. Let everybody know you want to make Canada great again.